This is still Johnston on our hands-on lab 11.1, and we're configuring and verifying VLANs. So we're going to go ahead and go into our switch 1, which I already put the host name in for, and under configure terminal you're going to be doing VLAN 10. And then inside of VLAN 10 I'm also going to do VLAN 20. It's not actually inside, but it's just as if I went under configure terminal and did VLAN 20. Now we're going to go on switch 2, and inside of our configure terminal we're going to do VLAN 10. You can see you could even exit and do VLAN 20. And do exactly the same thing. And switch 3 we're going to do VLAN 10. I'm also going to do VLAN 20. And then we're going to go on to our hands-on lab 11.2, configuring and verifying trunk links. So I'm going to go back to our switch 1, and then inside of here I'm going to do interface F0/15, and then we're going to do switch port trunk encapsulation ? If I do question mark here, it should show encapsulation. But the thing is, I noticed in the newer packet tracer they don't really show encapsulation, because I noticed that basically in the past they used to use ISL, but the standard now anymore is just 802 no matter what. But for some reason it's just not showing it. See, they just don't even show it. But basically they would do a switch port trunk encapsulation, and it'd be 802.1q would be the command, but for whatever reason packet tracer doesn't have that. So our next thing would be switch port mode trunk. And then our next part is we're going to go into interface F0/16. And inside of here, we're going to just do our switch port mode trunk. And I'm also going to go to interface 0/17, switch port mode trunk, and also to 18, switch port mode trunk. And then I'm going to end and do show interface trunk, or show interface sys trunk. Actually, I bet you it's just show interface trunk. There we go. So in here it shows all of our trunks and VLANs, and see everything is automatically 802.1q because they don't use ISL, because ISL had 30 bytes worth for the encapsulation, and the 802.1q only had 4 bytes. So they didn't want to have all that overhead, and this ended up being a better standard, so they started using that one. So here's everything on all of our networks. I have 1, 10, and 20 for each one of these fast Ethernet ports right here that we have configured. So now let's go ahead and do show interface, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to do F0/15, and I'm going to write switch port. And here it is, negotiating trunking on .1q, see by default, and then see encapsulation, because this is an extra encapsulation over your data. And here go. And now we're going to go to hands-on lab 11.3, and in here we're actually going to go into our router. And then we're going to do configure terminal once we get into our privilege exec mode. And then we're going to do interface F0/0. Or actually, on my router we don't have fast Ethernet, we only have the gigabit. So it's actually interface gigabit 0/0. And then we'll do IP address 172.116.10.1 with subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Then I'm going to also make basically we're making a router on a stick. So basically from here I'm going to do G0/0.10 for our VLAN 10, and you can actually basically name it any number you want. But in here, hopefully we can do the encapsulation. There we go. Encapsulation .1Q10. And then I'm going to do our next IP address. And of course this IP address is for the .10 VLAN here. It's not for the actual straight interface. And there is a difference. Alright, so we're going to do IP address 10.10.10.1 and subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and that'd be for our .10 on our interface, VLAN. Now we're going to go to our next interface. And this time I'm going to do a .20, and I'm going to do encapsulation .1Q for VLAN 20, and then here put our next IP address in there, and this one would be 20.20.20.1 with the same subnet mask for Class C subnet. Now we have to verify our running config. So basically we're going to do show run, and in here you could also type in running config, but so here it shows our gigabit 0/0 for the IP address for the straight interface, and this one is our router and a stick configuration for our VLAN. So for VLAN 10 we're doing the encapsulation, and then here's our IP address for this VLAN, and then here's another VLAN here put into the encapsulation, and our IP address for that one. And then now we're going to go on switch 1, and in here we're going to configure terminal. We're going to do interface F0/8, and here we're going to have to configure trunking on this switch. And basically on here we're going to do our switch port mode trunk. And then let's go ahead and do our do show VLAN command. And so it shows our 10 and 20 VLAN. And since we didn't name our VLANs, they automatically put this afterwards for its name. And all the interfaces are still in VLAN 1. Alright, now they want us to configure it so our hosts are in a VLAN. So in this case, and here I'll actually give an IP address for each one of these PCs. So we're going to go to IP configuration. This one's going to be 10.10.10.2, and case, the default gateway, we do 10.10.10.1 because we did set that up on a router for the router and a stick. And we'll just do it for each one of these here. This one will be 10.10.10.3, the next one up. And actually I should go ahead and do 255.255.0. And this will be 10.10.10.1. And I'm going to make this one also class C. Alright, here we go for that. For those two, so basically this is the 10 network, VLAN 10, and this will be our VLAN 20 network. So this will be 20.20.20.2, 255.255.255.0, and our default gateway will be 20.20.20.1. I'm going to do the same thing for this one with the next one up. 20.20.20.3. So that maps to 255.255.255.0, and it's going to be 20.20.20.1. That's how our router stick is configured. And then I'm going into our switch 3 here. Configure terminal, and then we're going to go into interface F0/3, and then we're going to go and we're going to do switch port mode trunk. Actually messed up, didn't mean to actually do that command on this one. We're actually going to do switch port access. They're going to do the VLAN. I was thinking switches between switches. And then this one's going to be for our VLAN 10. So that's going to be configured for this one right here. And then now we're going to do interface F0/4. And this one's going to be VLAN 10 also. And that's on our switch 3 right here. Alright, so now we're going to go and switch 2, and we're basically going to do the same thing but for VLAN 20. Alright, we're going to go to interface F0/3 on our switch 2, and then here we're going to do our VLAN for our VLAN 20. So on this one we're going to do switch port, just like we did in the other one, access, VLAN 20. We're going to do interface F0/4, and then we're going to do the same exact thing. Alright, now they want us to ping from our PC to our router and see if it actually pings. So I'm going to go ahead and do our command prompt, and I'm going to ping our 10.10.10.1. There it goes. And I'm going to ping the 20.20.20.1 and see it goes to our router. Now if we try to ping between the networks, there we go. Now one of the main reasons why this is working is because of our trunking here. Otherwise, if we were connected directly to our router, it would have actually completely separated our VLANs. And then you'd actually have to configure it so they can ping each other. And now we're going to do hands-on lab 11.4, and here we're going to go to our switch 1, and we're going to type in, we're going to get out of this mode here, and we're going to go into configure terminal, just the main configure terminal there, and do IP routing. some reason they don't have it in packet tracer. I have seen this command before and the same issue for other things. And now we're going to go into interface VLAN 10. And in here we're going to do IP address 10.10.10.1 with subnet mask 255.255.255.0. And then we're also going to do VLAN 20. And this one is going to be 20.20.20.1. The same subnet mask for class C. Then I'm going to do a command called clear ARP. This is going to clean all of our ARP history. And now we're going to go ahead and ping from our PC. There we go. So you actually need to rebuild this ARP table here. And it's going to have to create another ARP table through the switch. Because we are in a separate VLAN, just like I was talking about earlier, see, it actually won't go through the router to the other VLAN because we cleared the ARP table. So right now it's actually going from here to here to here, and the router's blocking it from going over here.